So, after I've taken the drum set apart, as you can plainly see here, it's time to put it back together. And explain it as I go. First thing we put in there is the bass drum. This is a bass drum. As you can tell, it's got a wide diameter and it's pretty thick. This is the thing that we were talking about with Mr. Bob, the professional drummer. And he was saying how classic rock drumming is built from the floor up. This is what he was talking about with the floor, the bass drum. And you hit the bass drum not with a stick like everything else, but in fact with specially designed pedals. This is the modern version of a double bass pedal. And this allows the drummer to get both feet playing on the drum set at once. In previous years, what you would have to do is have two bass drums, each one with a single pedal, because they didn't possess the technology like this. This is the second pedal, and what it does is I press my foot down, and it transfers the chain goes down, and as you can see, that rotates this whole arm thing. And then on the other end over here would be an attachment to the next drum pedal, so that the beater can actually strike the head. Okay. The next thing that we put in here is the hi-hat. This is a hi-hat on its stand. And the thing about a hi-hat, it is also worked with your foot, except for the fact that you hit it with your sticks. So this is one of those multi-instruments. I set it there, and I think you can see it from here, but if you can't, there's two cymbals. And I use the foot pedal, which I put right next to my left foot bass drum pedal, and I press the pedal down. That puts the cymbals closed. That's the sound you get. I open them. That's the sound you get. So the hi-hat is a multi-use instrument. The next thing we get in here, perhaps the most important the most important part of the whole drum set, the snare drum. This is the stand for the snare drum, and you see it's got 3 prongs on it. Those 3 prongs help hold the snare drum. This is a snare drum. This is the top. This is the side that I hit. This little blue thing merely muffles the ring of the snare drum head. The reason why it's called a snare drum is on the bottom. You see, we have lots of little wiry metal things going across, and you can tell they're vibrating as I speak. The snare drum has a little lever on it, and that adjusts how far away from the head the snares are. If I turn the snares on, now you see they're a lot more uniform, and they're actually touching the snare head, so that you get that sound. If I turn the snares off, there it is. Now they're a lot less uniform, and they're not touching the snare drum, and therefore you get more of a tom sound, which we will get to. Alright, the next couple of things we get in here are the floor toms. This is a floor tom, and it does not have any snares. And it's similar to the bass drum, except that its head diameter is less, even though it's thicker. Therefore, the tom is pitched slightly higher than the bass drum. We also have a second floor tom of the exact same dimensions as the first one. The only difference is this second one here is tuned lower, which simply means that its head tightness is not as much as the first one, which means that the head is allowed to vibrate less. And less speedy vibrations means a lower tune. Next thing that I think I will get in here is the rack. I'm going to set the rack up. This is one side of the rack. The rack is this, only with one here and one over here, and its purpose is to eliminate the number of stands we have to have. As you can see, there's a couple things mounted to it already, and simply it just holds these things so that we can play on them without having a gazillion stand legs and trying to figure out where every one of them goes. Now it's time to start mounting stuff on this side. This is a tom. It's kind of like the floor tom, only it's got a smaller head diameter and a smaller thickness. We have a special piece of hardware called an OptiMount on it, and that's going to allow me to mount it to this L-arm, which is mounted to the rack. And so that way I can just slide this. Right there. Now that's mounted. It's recording. Next thing to get on here is this thing. This is another hi-hat stand. We have another hi-hat stand. This hi-hat stays open with that slightly open sound that you could replicate with the hi-hat over there, only this one stays there. Alright, so got a hi-hat mounted. The next thing that we should do is get the cymbals up over here. So now that I have three stands up here, you're probably wondering what the heck's going to go on them. Well, on this one, that's pretty straightforward. You simply unscrew the wing nut. This is a wing nut, and you can see why they named it that, because it's got wings on it. Then I take the first foam piece off, the circular foam thing, and that simply cushions the cymbal that I'm about to put on it, which is this one. This is what I call the gong cymbal. It's a Zildjian 20¼ inch diameter ride cymbal, only it sounds like a gong. And it's got a little hole in the top of it, which we stick this through Then we put the foam piece back on top, and then we add the wing nut. And screw it down. Then we move on to the next stand. This one is going to have another ride cymbal put on it. This one is a Zildjian 20-inch ride cymbal, and it sounds sort of like a Chinese cymbal. And so, again, we put that through. Adjust that stand accordingly. Then put the foam back on, and then top it off with the wing nut. There, that one's done. Now the final stand on this side has a very naughty wing nut for one. And this one, we're going to put a crash cymbal. And the difference between a crash cymbal and a ride cymbal is simple. This is a Zildjian 16-inch crash cymbal. Now, a ride cymbal generally starts at 20 inches. So ride cymbals are 20 inches and above. Crash cymbals generally are 14 to 20 inches in diameter. This one happens to be 16 inches, and it was made by Zildjian. So we're going to put that. Again, put the hole through. Put the hole through the over top of the sticky up part, and then screw the wing nut back on. Alright, now I've got this side of the drum set complete. Now we're going to move on to the middle, and for that we need another piece of the rack. Before we go any further with what's on this side of the rack, we need to get another cymbal in here. This is a boom stand, which is different from a straight stand, as you can see, because the boom stand goes up and then it's got an arm that reaches out, and therefore you can have things set up farther away than what you would normally get. Cymbal. It's made by Sabian, but it's still a ride cymbal because it's 20 inches in diameter. This is a Sabian ride cymbal. Next cymbal we're going to get on there is called a splash. Splash is smaller than a crash. This is a 10-inch Sabian splash cymbal. And these are used kind of like Chinese cymbals, where they're not really used as like the big punctuations of songs, merely just to add different sounds and effects into a song. Alright, now that we've got all that done, we can put another drum on. This one is going to be another tom. Okay, so then the next thing that we're going to get on here is the last piece of what we can fit on this side of the rack or anywhere else, on this side. And it's going to be, big surprise, another crash. This is a Sabian 16-inch thin crash. And I like to call it my main cymbal because, well, it's right in front of my hi-hat. It's conveniently located for a lot of the stuff that I do. So this is really my main crash cymbal. This one merely is another crash that is over there. Now we need to get the other side of the rack set up, and then we can continue with the rest. Now what we need to do is get a cymbal and a tom in on the same piece of equipment. Here's another boom stand, and as you can see I have a double clamp and another L arm, and that will help me set this up. This another tom, only it's smaller than the other two mounted toms that I've already put on. Now we can mount another cymbal. And this is the same as a boom stand, like this one, only it's just the stem and the arm of a boom stand. Hi-hat cymbal, however, I'm mounting it as a splash cymbal. Alright, now that we're on this side, we need to start putting the high-pitched stuff on there. And that includes 3 rototoms. Rototoms are very small, and in the case of these, they're called rototoms because they rotate. You see, if I could right now, I could rotate this tom, and that would adjust how tight the head was, and therefore I could get a different pitched tom. So it's time to mount these. Alright, now that we have all of the drums in here, now we can put another cymbal on. And you see I'm working very methodically here in order to get it all in there in a nice, even fashion. This is a Sabian 14-inch thin crash cymbal, which might be replaced soon as it has a crack in it. Now, it's time to put another boom stem and arm. Alright, now we can get another cymbal in here. And this is going to be the last one. It's a Sabian 18-inch crash cymbal. And now, the final drum to go on the rack, but not the final piece of percussion equipment, is another tom. Now that we have all of that done, we can put the chair in here. But with the kit with my kit, the chair ain't the last thing to go in here. And when you're buying a chair, make sure you actually like it. Make sure it's one that's comfortable for you and that you actually enjoy sitting in, because otherwise it's not worth it. Now we can put the auxiliary percussion in, and that includes, can you guess which type of drum this is? Now we can put the last finishing touches in here. One of them is a stand for my xylophone. This is my xylophone. I got it in 5th grade for the 5th grade RCI band. And I still have it, and I still use it from time to time. Next, I have a milking stool. Yes, I have a yes, this is a milking stool. And I put that right about there. And then I put my small chime set in it. And then off of the xylophone, I can hang a couple of triangles. And then the absolute final drum in this whole piece of the kit is the ocean drum. This one was given to me as a present. I can't remember what it was for, but this is it. It's got a very nice backing to it. And it's got these little tiny steel balls in it, and that when I roll them around, it sounds like the ocean.